Hello and welcome back. In this video we will look at your SRA, or Separate Retirement Account. We will discuss how it's funded and the options you have with it at retirement. Having an understanding of this and how it works is crucial when we talk about the vote, which we will discuss in our last video. The SRA is often a hotly debated topic, so with that, let's explore how it works. Let's revisit some things we talked about in our first video covering the normal payment option. Remember this? If you look closely, you will see that all of your 8% contributions are used when funding the base benefit. The city contributes another 8%, but in this example, only 6% is used for the base benefit. Do you remember where that remaining 2% goes? Well, that will be the focus over the next few minutes. Remember that these are example figures purely for discussion. In reality, that surplus can be more or less, year to year, depending on market gains or losses. However, your 8% will always fund the base benefit by design of this plan. Every year an actuarial study is done on the statewide defined benefit plan. This study compares the income of the plan, your contribution, plus the city's contributions, plus or minus any market gains or losses from the previous year, to the liabilities of the plan. Liabilities include the base benefit cost of everyone with accrued benefits, both active and retirees, plus any year-over-year cost of living carryover. If the plan's income exceeds its liabilities, a surplus is created. If the plan's income is less than the liabilities, a shortfall, or unfunded liability, is created. Remember from our first video, this surplus money can go to a few different places. It has the possibility of becoming a cost of living adjustment, an allocation to your SRA, or both. But before these are possible, the board considers something even more important, the actuarial strength of the plan. Actuarial strength is simply the ability for the plan to pay for its promised benefits. The board considers if the plan can sustain the base benefit cost of everyone with accrued benefits drawing off of it, plus the liability of past cost of living adjustments, plus the potential of another cost of living adjustment for that year, carried over to life expectancies of the members in the fund. That sounds like a lot, and it is. We will get more into this on the next slide. This is why the board has the right to issue a small cost of living adjustment, not issue a cost of living adjustment, or allocate a small, if any, amount to your personal SRA. The board has to weigh the cost of all the liabilities against the funding of the plan to see if they have enough money to make another promise to retirees in the form of a cost of living adjustment for that year. The reason I call it a promise is because once given, it can never be rolled back or taken away from anyone drawing on it. This is a delicate balancing act between current and future expenses and income or shortfalls within the plan. This describes the very essence of a pension plan, specifically a defined benefit plan such as ours, to provide financial security through a defined benefit that pays until the day that you die. Cost of living adjustments in the plan help protect your retirement funds from inflation. The board may also choose to leave some or all of that surplus money in the investment account, giving them more money down the road for other things, as I'll explain next. In order to fully understand how the SRA works, let's imagine your own personal budget for a minute. You have some fixed expenses, mortgage, rent, insurance, property taxes, HOA fees, utilities, maybe a car payment, you get the picture. And then you have some variable expenses, groceries, gasoline, clothing, recreation, vacation, and anything else you may think of. You know there is a certain fixed amount that you will spend each month on expenses that you must pay or there will be consequences. You then have some flexibility on the remainder of your money. You also set yourself up with a rainy day fund should something unexpected happen. That way if a major outlay of cash is needed, you won't go into debt or have to add a loan or credit card repayment to your fixed expense category. Another smart choice is to have a secondary investment vehicle, such as a 457 or other retirement account, to supplement your pension at retirement. When you break down your personal budget, you basically come up with 4 categories. Expenses that need to be paid every month without fail or there will be consequences. Imagine missing a couple of mortgage or rent payments. Expenses that have some variation each month. Your rainy day funds, and other personal investments. That is basically how the statewide defined benefit plan is set up as well. The plan has 2 accounts, an actuarial account and a stabilization reserve account. The actuarial account is where the base benefit, cost of living adjustments, and rainy day funds come from. The stabilization reserve account holds everyone's personal SRAs. The plan's fixed expenses are the base benefit cost and past cost of living adjustments carried over year to year. The variable expenses are cost of living adjustments that could be issued for that year. Cost of living adjustments can be considered variable each year because they are discretionary and depend on market conditions and plan funding to determine how much the plan can afford to give. Just as the cost of groceries, gasoline, education, and other expenses are going up, The board tries to take as much sting out of that as possible by giving cost of living adjustments if the funds will allow. It has been a long-standing practice of the board to issue cost of living adjustments before funding an allocation to your SRA. There are several reasons for this. First, cost of living adjustments compound on themselves, making your base benefit grow with time. This allows you to retain some of your purchasing power against the wealth-dwindling effects of inflation. A prudent person wouldn't go out and buy an expensive vehicle if they couldn't afford it, just as the board wouldn't issue a cost of living adjustment that doesn't fit the plan's budget. This is because once a cost of living adjustment is given, it leaves the discretionary expense column and becomes a fixed carryover. The board could also decide to build a rainy day fund with the surplus money by leaving it in the actuarial account. This is important because it builds room for a major market downturn, such as in 2008. The plan may have the ability to absorb some of those losses before it is in financial trouble. The actuarial account is subject to the same market gains and losses as the SRA account. It's just easier to access the money if needed. Another consideration for the surplus is for some or all of it to be allocated to your personal SRA. However, just like there are restrictions on money that you put into your 457 or individual retirement account, the plan cannot use its SRA account without restrictions. By law, the board can only use funds from the SRA if there is an unfunded liability in the plan. This is the answer to the question, why doesn't the FPPA just use our SRAs instead of asking for another 4%? Well, they can't. Not until there is an unfunded liability in the plan. Once that happens, there are several things that the board can do, but we will discuss those in our last video, as that takes some time to talk through. Now that you have an understanding of where your SRA money comes from, let's look at some of the reasons why SRA balances vary so widely from some of the older members to the newer. Originally, the retirement for all members was a maximum of 50% of your salary after 25 years of service and at least age 60. The tiered multiplier did not exist. This set up a situation where excess employer contributions were larger compared to where they are today. This let the board issue larger cost of living adjustments, put a sizable amount of money away for a rainy day, and allocate larger amounts to your SRA. Here are some of the SRA allocations in the years leading up to 2000. In 2000, the tiered multiplier was voted in by the membership, much like our proposal today. This cost the plan a lot of money, but it was implemented without costing the members any more out of pocket. The members essentially received a better retirement without having to pay for it, per se. By virtue of the vote, members made the decision to forego larger future SRA allocations to receive a higher multiplier. The surplus was used to increase the base benefit, and as you can see, the SRA allocations were cut down considerably because of that. In fact, there has never been an allocation over 1% since 2003. Knowing how the plan funding works explains why SRA balances have been lower since the tiered multiplier. The implementation of the tiered multiplier pretty much replaced the larger SRA allocations of yesteryear. Now personally, Uncle Pennybags loves his tiered multiplier. The benefits far outweighed the 50% pension that existed originally. Under the tiered multiplier system, he can earn as much as 100% of his salary in retirement if he came on the job at 21 and worked until age 63 without dropping. The tiered multiplier has provided a more robust pension for the vast majority of the members in the plan at no additional reduction to their take-home pay. Once you retire or enter the drop, your SRA balance becomes vested and cannot be used by the board to fund the base benefits should there be an unfunded liability in the plan. Remember, your SRA balance is not technically yours until then. Once officially retired, you can then take your SRA in one of several forms. You can take a lump sum, periodic payments, or you can convert all or a portion of it into a no-fee annuity through FPPA, which may include a survivor benefit and the same cost of living adjustment that is issued to the statewide defined benefit plan. You could also choose a combination of those. Another option is to transfer your balance to Fidelity and put it into the police and fire self-directed investment account. Should you choose to drop, this is where your SRA balance will go until you officially retire. This is a self-directed account, much different than the investment account that FPPA managed, meaning you have more responsibility for properly investing your money. Please talk to FPPA and Fidelity to understand your options should you choose to do this. Finally, you could defer taking your SRA altogether until you reach age 70 and a half. Doing this only subjects you to standard market gains and losses, not the actuarial table that your pension is subjected to. Remember, you only vest in the SRA when you retire or enter the drop, and you have no right to an SRA if you're not entitled to a retirement benefit. That sums up the workings of your SRA. Remember, the statewide defined benefit plan only has two accounts for money to reside, an actuarial account and the stabilization reserve account. The Stabilization Reserve account simply holds everyone's personal SRAs. This account is a contingent account and can only be used to fund the base benefit when there is an unfunded liability in the plan. Thank you for joining us, and please watch our last video covering how this vote will affect your pension.